And welcome back there. So what I'm working on today is assembly of a few parts that kind of got in, just getting everything ready. This is the fan hub. All the paint's, it's either dry or frozen, one of the two. But what I'm getting done is I got the bolts put in back there. Same style that I had taken out. And they got a square shoulder on them. Like that there. And you can see that one's kind of been rounded down where the washer is locking into it. So I went and got some thick washers, like what these are a grade 8 thick washer, and I took it to my drill press with and put a bevel on them, like what that one is. See if that'll come into focus. Yeah, you see that bevel? So then that way it won't maul up that shoulder as they get tightened down. So that's what I did on these three here. You see that shoulder sticks through just a little bit there. And I want that shoulder to stay nice and strong for tightening. And then as you see, I beveled that in. And then instead of lock washers, I'm going to use locking nuts instead on there. I just like them. They help keep the elements out of the threads too with that nylon sealant on there. A little better, not like 100% waterproof, but it does work a little better on it. So yeah, that's assembled there. Slid on pretty good. There's a little paint deformation in there, mauling or scraping, however you want to call it. But once again, this is going to be put back into use, so it's going to get it. So okay, so I think I got a idea of what I got to do to make my sound work good on my audio. As you can see here, I got my top cover, the transmission laid up here. I just made this gasket, and that is for the shifter itself, the gear shifter, which is right here. This is primed. I'm not worried about painting that. And then I got a new spring down in there. A little bit more spring tension, but all that is keeping this everything held in position down below, so I'm okay with it. It's not going to bind to where the biggest tension is going to be against the cotter pin up there. So if there's a failure, it'll be that cotter pin, and I'll be able to see that from the surface. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and grease everything once I get it mounted to the top up there and I'm done kind of handling it. I think I'm going to get all the bolts in, lock washers, everything torqued down. Well, I'll back up here. I'm going to grease everything, get all the new bolts and lock washers put in when it's on the top cover, then I'll torque it all down. And then while it's sitting there, I'm going to hit it with another coat of primer just to hit all the edges, kind of just maybe seal it up, get this in, this flat cover in there. I got to get it cleaned up. It has a bit of a arch to it. I think I'm going to try to make one. Maybe it looks like it has something small for that back one. See if I can't make something to fit in there on the lathe. If it works, great. If not, then I'm just probably going to put a little bit of silicone over the top of it and then hit it with some paint, or maybe just hit a little extra paint there to get it to fill up into the seals. I did put Loctite in it from the bottom, so it does have some barrier in there itself. So trying to get this so I can get it put on, and I still got to get the ball bearing and spring in this over here too. And so I got to pull this cover off the side to get back in there. But I like to get it put on because you guys are tired of me staring at it. I'm tired of staring at it. Alright, so that's all snug down there. This one doesn't have the 2 cups, so it only has the 1 gasket, where this one has 2. Those 2 both have 2 underneath there. Made it a little thicker, gave it a little play there, but I want to make sure I didn't have any moisture get in or oil leak out. But it gives a little packing for there it goes. So it's getting a little binding on them. But I think if I have the spring pressure back against it, it's just how it's sitting in there. It's just not actuated underneath correctly without pressure back against them. And that's not excessive either way. That's going to be fine. I like that. So the way this one works with the spring is the 2 cups will sit on here, and this pulls up, and a pin goes through the top of that upper cup, and that holds that in tension for your position on that shifter. So now I'm going to spin that way. Make sure you can see it. I think my audio was bad before. It didn't sound very good before because I was standing behind the speaker. So we're going to try it. If it works, great. If it don't, then this will probably be a high-speed lapse and you'll never really know. What we do here you'll shift this over to get that rod out to right there. And you put that on, and you'll see there's a hole here. The hole will sit on that shaft. And you'll take your bearing, your ball bearing, your detent bearing, and drop it in that hole, and it sits on that shaft just like that. And then you slide it back into position. Because the hole in the housing isn't large enough for the ball to pass through, but the spring, however, will pass through. I'm going to get some Teflon tape to put on that. Case of the dropsies this week. just to prevent moisture from getting down in there. And honestly, the detent probably really isn't necessary with how I have this now set up. But I put it in anyways. Once again, this cover is going to have to come off because I'll take it over to get a brass bushing set on it. I'm going to tighten up the slot for the clutch. This is what your clutch engagement lever works on back and forth. And it just has quite a bit of left and right slop on it. I don't mind the forward and back. I can take that up with other pins, but the wear on the shaft is a bit much. Right there. I like that. Get me 4 more bolts and some lock washers. We'll get all them set under there. Pull one out and match them up. And just barely stick through on the bottom, which I'm okay with. Because once I get that lock washer on there, then I'm having to twist them down through the gaskets. But I want to make sure that I get it lined up and they're not angled going into the housing by hand, and I don't want to rip them in with a speed gun just because my angle's off, then I'm SOL. Finally got some sunshine around here. Yesterday and today are both up to about 40 degrees. We were below zero for our highs a couple days there. Yeah, snug them down for now. I like it. Two more to put over there. I'll leave these off for the moment. I built me a small gasket here out of a plastic. So that way that'll go down over this. Just temporary for now. I'm gonna see if I can try to find a copper one that'll fit nicely down into it. So that way it's reusable. It's just plastic I made out of a milk carton for now. And see how that turns out. That'll have to be, this is going to have a dipstick on it, so that way I can check it, and I don't want to have anything super tight on there. I don't know that I want an O-ring or a rubber one. I think plastic will probably work the best. I don't expect a lot of splashing or a lot of leak out of there, but I can always change it as time goes on. I'm going to go over and make some noise in cleaning this up. Probably stop for lunch. And then we'll get back out of here shortly. So I got the cap cleaned up. I didn't prime it or anything because it's going to get primed in there. So it's just a little button. It's concave on it there. Just gets set and gets tapped on in there. So I got some sealant I'm going to put around on the inside before I tap it down in there. As you can see it, you can see the recess as it's going down in. Let's lay that right like that. Got me a fancy little punch here. One a little smaller. These punches are so versatile. You can just find any size you need. Alright, solid taps there telling me that we're all the way down. That'll get primed up. Clean that all up and see if I can do something for this back one. I didn't have one on either one of them, so I don't know that there's actually supposed to be something there or not. Stand to reason that there will be something to seal it up. But I don't know, I'll look into it and see what I can do. All right, so it seems like a good place to take a video here. I went and I got that put in. You saw that. I went to make one for this, but as I push that down, if I drive it down, it's going to come out the bottom, so that wouldn't work. I had made a plug that would have went in there, but I got to look and examine it before I did anything with it, and it was going to push out, and so it wouldn't work. So it's just going to sit up, and then all that's going to get primed. I'm getting ready. I went ahead and I seized those up, so those are ready to go in. I have this section assembled over here. I primed that bottom. I know I got a bunch of overspray, but that ain't gonna matter, it's all primer. But I used the exhaust manifold studs that I made. I set these in here to hold the gasket down and help me get everything aligned, so when she goes down kind of straight and true. Hopefully I don't need the two up in the front, but we'll see. I might have to grab them and put them up there, but everything seems to be aligning good. I gotta find the hardware. Well, I know where my hardware is, it's right here. But I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get all new grade 8. So I'm kinda gonna get everything set, get those cleaned up, put in, and then when it comes time to torquing it down, I'm gonna have grade 8s all put in there and get them all primed up and painted in. So I know they're not original because there's different head sizes and all that, but I don't wanna mess with old hardware that's corroded and dilapidated, and a lot of the stuff I'm taking off here is in pretty rough shape. So it's gonna get new, and that way I know it has good structure, good bolts holding it together. So I will maybe set up the camera and see if we can catch me fumbling around with that top to put it on. All right, I'm prepping this right now. That cover, I'm getting it kind of sprayed down. I'll come over and brush it on up, clean it up, get a good mating surface on it. Everything looks pretty good. I'm going to take these are the grease zerks, which go to hoses that go to the two bearings that are on this for disengaging for your steering. I'm going to pull them off and get everything cleaned up, and then I think I'm going to hit this with some red primer just to put, like I said, another barrier between the steel and the gasket. Put some red primer on it, let it set and get cured. I'll put the heater on it. But these are some thin nuts over here. They're secured on. I already got one off here. And this nut will actually go to the greaser. But they lost one, so they have a thick nut on there. So I'm going to unscrew the greaser out of there, so that way I can get the nut off. And I can hold it down underneath. Pull that off. And I gotta say, the grease in that hose looks less than desirable. So, with that being said, I might unscrew that and pump all new fresh grease through that hose, and then that way I don't pump as much dirty grease, and then I might do a big grease exchange on these bearings. I just make sure you can see it. So that might be happening here shortly. I got the radio on. Better go turn that off. So I'm going to start by taking these hoses off, and then I'll grab a grease gun, and I'm going to go ahead and cycle some clean grease through the hose, and then I will probably go and clean this up and just start, and then once I get the hose filled with clean grease, I'll just cycle it on through. Those are actually pretty good. I'll do a grease exchange on one and see how I like it. Because if it doesn't turn out very good, or if I'm running into issues, I don't think the grease is terrible. It's just not something I want to keep in there, I think. Yeah, it's just an older amber colored grease, so it's probably okay. We're just going to clean the hoses out, cycle it through, and get some fresh blue grease through it. Grab me a really old rag to press that into. There we go. A little tint of the old stuff, but that's some nice, good blue grease right up there. So probably didn't need to worry too much about it, but I'm there, so it's easier to do it now than it is later. Pull that off. The old grease man, the old manuals used to say to push out all the old grease until you see the new grease come in. Now, I'm assuming with the advances of technology and quality of greases and all that, that's really not something that has to happen all that often anymore. But I don't know how long this thing has been sitting. And so for the cost of a little bit of grease, might not be too bad for me just to do that and just do the exchange like I did. Bearing feels really good. Granted, it's packed with grease, so I like that. Do the other side, another one on here, and then we'll get the other side and we'll do it all over again. And that'll have us in business then. This is just messy. There's no clean way to do this. There we go. The hose is a little longer. Come on now. I'll hold my tongue just right. Got it. Using my lock and lube grease gun, the air one. I'm not sponsored by him, but I really like it. The only sponsor I have is my wife, much to her dismay. There's a lot of grease. All right, I think I gotta find another rag. I keep all the really old nasty rags around just for grease stuff like this. Because I can handle a little bit of oil rag when you're cleaning up your grease, but once you grease a rag, it's pretty much done. There we go, that side's done. We got an extra problem on this side. This is loose. So we'll have to get that tightened down as well. Something here. Looks like a buildup of something. Nothing. So I got two flat shoulders to grab that with. Let me go check the timing of that. There we go. Okay. Got it. And given the condition of all the grease zerks on it, I'm gonna replace them once I kind of get it all together. I'll put some new ones on. They're not bad, but the ball's missing. Kind of chewed up a little bit there, so I might even replace them just with some straights that go straight down. We'll need you gotta be careful doing that kind of oil exchange or that grease exchange on some of the new bearings too, because some of the new bearings are sealed up and don't require as much grease, but these are not sealed bearings. Because if you ever grease a sealed bearing, it'll blow the seals out and then pretty much ruin the bearing because the dust will intrude, go right in. And these do have a shield on them, but the grease is coming out from on the bottom in there. And if I'm wrong in doing this, I'll find out. I'll be the first to know. This one's loose too. Come on, brass. Go to your hole. I don't like it at all. I don't like that one bit. Oh man, struggle bus central. No, no, no. That would be why. That's probably not going to fix in, but then threads don't look healthy or happy. You have to clean them up. I'll be back. Okay, so I ended up getting it in there. A little bit of persuasion. I went and I fetched out my tap and my 1/8 inch tap, and I tightened it and got a thread on there. And being that it's brass, it went pretty easy. So I'm just gonna tighten these up, get that snug down, try not to take the camera out. Ooh, twice now, 3 times. There we go. With that, those will be done. Those are done. So yeah, it was galled. It was messed up before. Looks like it got cross-threaded. So got it cleaned up, got it back in there. Everything's straight and true, snug down pretty good. So kind of heavy. Stupid little springs in the way down there. I was hoping I could do it without having to back them out. Trying to get the fork lined up into the bar down below the 2 holes in it. Haha. Rats. Something's not driving on it. Something's not driving on the front. What seems to be the issue here? Gear sets aligned. Oh, those feel really good. First time I've got to use them since I got the adjustments in there. Well, that's not cool. I don't have a clue on why we're hanging up. Well, here looks good, other than I got a dirty hole there that I got to clean out. So in the front shifter for the transmission, there is a, that slide housing goes back and forth. The gears were out of sync just a little bit, and so the dog was catching on it. So I got that fixed up there. I just got to get this back into its holes back here again. Get that block back down there. It shouldn't be too hard to do. Yeah, something like that. That you heard was the gasket folding out in shape, so yeah. Oh, my transmission's right. If not, I can get to that through the top. I guess the other thing to do. Transmission's acting as in isn't wanting to gauge because I don't have this lifted up in a position, so it's too far down in there and it's not wanting to engage correctly. There's the issue I was having when I originally got it, and the spring down in there was worn out, and this was missing the pin altogether, so the shifter had just dropped down in there. So what I did is I reached up underneath, spun the PTO shaft that's inside to verify what I had. I got more fingerprints on here than I want to, but it'll all get primed up and painted. It'll all come out. So gasket pulled into shape, a couple bolts put in it, and go from there. Got it on. So we've seen these cups a few times. Well, what I did finally get from the local saddle shop, he got them done. KT did an awesome job down there. Is he got me a leather that fits right onto that cup, flushes up nicely, so that way when that sits on there, it's not metal on metal, it's metal on leather. So I'm going to soak those actually in a neat's foot oil, and it's a condition. It's kind of just regular oil you use on saddle work and stuff, so that way it sits on that way. But I got all three of them. That's what it'll look like when it goes on, but that'll just have some oil on it just to help keep the dust and dirt from out underneath there. Gives you a little air, a little gap, but that's what those look like. I'm assuming it's some sort of cloth or something. It looked like leather, the ones I took out. I'm gonna go with leather because it holds up. It'll be easy to replace if I need to, but I thought that'd be the best thing to put in down there. Has a little squishability for the springs against it, but I think it'll work out pretty good. And then you don't get that metal on metal back and forth. You have that leather inside there sliding on that paint. He did a real good job. He beveled the edges on it, and yeah, he always does a good job for me. Thank you, KT. I appreciate that. So this is the transmission vent breather. Be careful, it might be a little hot. And as you can see, it's full of lots of rust and goodies. And it's threaded, and this is what threads into it. There's the bottom thread, so you can see I kind of damaged them pretty good. So, and I knew I was gonna probably end up doing that anyways. This is the dipstick, but it's broken. And this just sits right up here like that cap. So it's a vent breather, so it allows any of the hot temperatures to vent on this, up and down on it. So it can vent, but then it doesn't allow oil really to spray up out of there. And it doesn't allow moisture to get in because the little pinhole up there. Well, ideally not supposed to, but as you can see by all the corrosion there on the table. This is an 1.5 inch bolt. I've took it in my lathe and I was trying, but this is just a lot of material for my poor little lathe, and I know I damaged some threads down here, but I don't need all those threads. What I'm going to end up doing is having this made out of that. But I don't think I necessarily need the hex head on top. That can just be round. And then I'll just adjust my this part here a little bit so that way it will fit. So I'll do maximum width of this, get this down, get the threading onto it, which wouldn't hurt. This thing could probably stand to have a couple more threads on it anyways. I'm gonna go sandblast the interior. So even if this thing was threaded almost all the way up, which you shouldn't have to, but pretty close to it, probably about that high up on it, and then taper that on in. So yeah, I'll clean those up. It's a 2-inch 12 thread per inch TPI. Got a little rough on it. I had to heat the snot out of this thing to get it to go. I should have done that first before I clamped down onto those threads. And I tried just forcing it out with just a pipe wrench and didn't work worth a darn, so. We'll see what I can get done with that. I'm gonna go get these sandblasted and cleaned up at least, and then get them to my machinist and see what he says and what he can do. And then what he's gonna charge me. That's always the important part. So I'm gonna go ahead and seal up the top of the engine for now. I got a new valve cover gasket. And one of the studs came out for the valve cover. It's stuck in the nut. So I got that extracted, went through and cleaned up all the hardware. I have to get 4 new copper washers though, because the 4 I have aren't the greatest. They're pretty chewed up. So what I think I'm going to do for now, I'm just going to go and just set them on. But these are the nuts that go on there. They're a fine thread. Just for now, I'm going to flip them over, point them down. And I might get me some steel washers to put on top of these copper ones. To use the copper as that one's going to go. Maybe they won't get copper on there. Put some steel ones on top of the coppers to make it a little more rigid, so when I squeeze it down a little bit, put a little pressure on it, it doesn't want to flex so much. I got plenty of travel to do so. All right, so then the camera battery died. You can probably hear me better on this one anyways. So I got those in. I didn't put any washers underneath them yet. I'm gonna get some new 1/2-inch copper washers, and then I'm also gonna probably get another stiffener. We'll see. These nuts bottom out, so you can't over tighten the valve cover to distort it. Right now these are all bottomed out. But I still have the issue with the valve cover. This corner is down still, just I bent it a little bit, but I got gap under there still, so I don't know what I gotta do quite yet. Maybe take the gasket off, tighten everything down, and put something under here to pry up or something. I don't know yet. But I'll have to do something because, yeah, I got gap under there. That's going to be a huge oil leak, and we're not going to have that. So, but once I get there, I won't mess with it until I get the washers and get everything kind of put down. Maybe the washers will tighten it up a bit more. I don't know, we'll see. But I didn't have, I guess I take it back. I did have a lot of oil on this side too, but this whole poor thing is just covered in oil for 80 years old, so. But. So the other thing I needed to get done is a quick oil change on this. And that just takes a Wix filter, 57011 filter. So I already got that put on. Those are the big coarse threads, so I don't use a tool, I just put it on hand tight. This is a cast iron oil pan, but it has a steel plate bolted up on the bottom. It's kind of hard to see, but this old girl took a heck of a lump right here. This is dented in here pretty good. So everything still seems to be okay. I went around and I checked these bolts and most of them were just barely tight. So I just squeaked them up for now. I'm gonna see about maybe an oil pan gasket for it. I hate to try to make those. See if I can't find one. I know a guy that gets parts. This is a UM engine and actually stamped right up here. Probably can't see it worth a darn, but UM and the numbers going across. So yeah, I might see about that oil pan gasket for it. So I got the plug up here already. There's some thread tape on it. And put her back in. Sorry, I'll focus on the phone. Bear with me. Oh, wrong socket there. Come here, socket. I need to get my child out here to hold my phone. And that's pretty snug. So, yeah. There's a plug on this other side I think I'm going to take out and just thread tape it just to make sure it's sealed up good. I mean, because why not, right? Oh, well, it's pretty black. It's old. Smells nasty. Not sure what the point of the second plug is here, but it's easy enough to take out. I'm going to take this over the wire wheel, clean it up, and I will get some thread tape on it and I'll be back. All right, I got that cleaned up, got some thread tape on it. Let's see if I can't flatten that off. I like that right there. Pretty snug. I don't want to get a wrench on it too much because it is casting, so. All right, I'll go look up the oil contents and we'll splash some oil in there. And not going to run it right at the moment, but at least I got that checked off, and it's going to get a couple oil changes, I think, fairly quickly. It'll get a bath, and then probably when I go to do the big paint and restoration on it. And right before I start putting it back in and start using it again, I'll probably change oil again. So probably another 2 oil changes. Just makes me feel better, because if I drop something in there, any garbage or junk or anything like floating from the valve cover down, I can just kind of make sure that I'm catching it early. So oil's a hell of a lot cheaper than an engine overhaul, that's for sure. So all right, so I got the oil change done. Put 2.5 gallons in. It's 10 quarts. So I've got to put in there. I'm just under the full mark at the moment, but like I said, as long as I'm operational, yeah, pretty good on it. I filled it through the bottom one. I didn't go through the top because I don't have that on tight yet, and didn't want to monkey with the oil on top. So I'll crank it over by hand a few times, kind of get some oil going through it first before I hit it with the starter when I go to kick it back on. But my oil vent covers are being cleaned right now. They were pretty nasty, the air breathers for them. So I got one soaking in some acetone, and the other one is in that bucket of gasoline. Gasoline seems to work to break it down the quickest, and the acetone cleans it up pretty good. Or lacquer thinner. I got a lacquer thinner. So this side here, I was running the file down on this. Everything's pretty flush on that for my surface, so I'm pretty pleased with it. I don't know, I might put a big light underneath it and get out of the straight edge again and go over it one more time. I'm not happy with how it kind of looks. It looks a little rough, like it needs to be flap dished a bit. I don't know, I don't want to go gouging it, so kind of is what it is for the moment. So I'm going to button up some tools, I think, and head home. Go see the kids and the wife. Thanks for watching.